Hello and welcome to today's episode of Thrive After 45. I'm Denise Drinkwalter, heart whisperer, midlife mirror, and mentor. And every week it is such an honor to share energy and space with inspiring guests whose stories reflect so many possibilities of thriving beyond 45. Together, we uncover the whispers of the heart, the power of midlife transformation, and the wisdom that fuels expansion. So, what happens when a woman who has built a full, successful life realizes that she still wants more? Not more achievement, not more applause, but more agency. That's the work that our wonderful guest, Terri Hanson Mead, has devoted herself to. Terri is the founder of Piloting Your Life, an author, Stanford continuing studies instructor, and life strategy coach. For more than 25 years, she's worked in leadership and life design. And for the past 8, she's focused specifically on midlife women ready to move from autopilot to intentional authorship. Through her course, Navigating Midlife for Women, her 100-episode podcast, her writing, and her investing in women-led companies, she has helped hundreds directly and reached thousands more. At the heart of her work are women who look accomplished on paper, yet feel quite restless that they cannot ignore anymore. Women asking things like, if I designed this next chapter on purpose, what would it really look like? Terri, I am so honored to share this space and conversation with you today. Welcome to Thrive After 45.
Oh my God, I have chills just because of the work that you and I get to do with the women of this world and how we are gonna take it over
One step at a time, right?
one step at a time.
Yeah, we were talking before we started recording about not necessarily dismantling, but infusing change, possibility, shining that light, as it were, so that we can continue to grow, expand, and do what brings our hearts full purpose, right?
Absolutely. And as you were just saying it was just like what fills our hearts
Yeah.
rather than always being in service to other women or other
Mm,
people in society, etc. But
yeah.
doing what fills our hearts, fills our souls, and makes
Mm,
us feel like our life is worth living. Like
yeah.
our life has the meaning that we want it to have. And that is why I really think midlife is an opportunity and not a crisis for women. After we get through the yucky 40s when we're trying to figure everything out and we get it
Yep.
to, I want to say, the more fulfilling 50s and
Mm.
beyond, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. And you know what? We get to do whatever it is, like you say, that lights our heart on fire because the pathway from before is spreading itself further and further away from that. Dig in, gotta go, gotta move. Here's this line, I've got to hit that goal, all the stuff that we've been not only conditioned, but also training ourselves to be, in the world. I've got to make this, do this, do this, do this. We get to step back and take a breath more so, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I don't think I realized in my 40s was, I am a recovering type A overachieving perfectionist. I will probably always be a recovering. Some alcoholics are always in recovery. This is something that I will always be in recovery because I'm constantly having to fight that drive
Mm,
for perfection, the drive to achieve, because I always had positive feedback loops around that. But in our 40s, when we are potentially going through natural menopause transition, perimenopause, some
right.
women go through it earlier for, due to surgery radiation or, whatever else is happening. But a lot of women go through the menopause transition in our 40s. Our bodies change, our minds change. And as you said, we start asking, is this it?
Mm,
Is there more? We also lose the capacity in this change, in this midlife puberty, to
hmm
handle as much as we were able to handle before.
mm,
And a lot of us don't recognize it while we're in it because, at least here in the United States, I can't speak to Canada and other parts of the world, there has not been enough attention paid to women's health in general, but then
mm,
also to aging women
mm.
because women are not supposed to age. There's no women equivalent of a silver fox. We're just supposed to slide into old hag. I'm actually realizing that sliding into old hag is a delicious vision versus, because we're not as tied to all of the expectations of our society. But in our 40s, so much is changing. And as if we can look to it as, okay, I'm just going through midlife puberty, there are going to be a lot of changes. I can't do as much because so much is changing in my body and my mind. Let me, as you said, take a step back, take a breath, use this as an opportunity to really reassess, where am I now?
Mm.
What is important to me? Start to experiment to figure out, because so many of us lose through um, you know this is really more in like a cisgender heteronormative situation, but you get your job, you get your spouse, you get the dog, you get the house, you get the kids, you get blah, 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 blah. You
Right.
get so lost in that because it's
Mm,
so busy and it's so consuming
hmm
that when you hit your 40s and all of a sudden your body is like, whoa. And it's like you can either fight it like I did, and like so many of us women do, or if we can talk more about it and say, hey, this is just
Yes.
natural, to be able to go, it is perfectly okay to take a pause. There is
hmm
nothing wrong with you. This is absolutely appropriate. You get to take a step back and figure out what really is most important. And for those of us who had, I had my children when I was 31 and 34,
hmm
so they didn't need me as much in my mid 40s.
Right.
Women that I talked to when I was researching for my book, Piloting Your Life, some of them were younger when they had kids, some of them were
hmm
older. And they were like, I can't take the time to do this. My kids are 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, just wait. I appreciate where you are. This may not resonate because you don't feel like you have the time, but your
Mm-hmm.
body's going to tell you. And
Mm,
then for those women who do not have children for whatever
sure.
reason, there are different factors that may drive that
Yeah.
pause, whether it's a health issue, changing careers, parents who need more help.
Yes.
There are so many different factors. I think there are at least 7, and I talk about them in the book, that really like hit you in the head and go, you
Yeah.
need to take a break.
Yeah. And the conversations that we have in this show are multiple purpose, but one of the reasons why I think what you're talking about is so important is if we can help women not hit those walls, but start processing and thinking about possibilities before that, we don't all have to go down that slippery slope if we know more we can do differently as a result, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, one of the reasons why I wrote my book, Piloting Your
Yeah.
Life. I'm sorry about the printer. My
Oh,
25-year-old,
that's okay.
my son is studying for his master's degree at San Francisco State, and it looks like he's printing out something to read. So we were an
No
empty nest.
worries.
We were an empty nest. We're no longer an empty nest.
Yep.
Anyway, one of the reasons why I wrote my book is I didn't know what to expect. I hit that wall and I was like, why didn't anyone tell me what to expect when I turned 40? And I so much do not want the women coming up behind me to suffer the same thing. So, like, as you said, if we can talk
Sure.
about it so that you don't feel crazy, you're like, oh, this is just
Yep.
a normal part of aging. Just like we tell kids when they're going through puberty, that it's just a normal part of the aging process.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
happens to be earlier in life.
Absolutely. Uh, Tell us about your book, Piloting Your Life. How did you come up with the name?
That's a good question. So, I am a commercially rated helicopter pilot. I know.
I
Let's
love
drop
it.
that in there.
I I knew that, and I'm like, tell me
Yeah,
you're a helicopter
yeah.
pilot. Yeah.
So, all of my branding is around aviation. I have worked in predominantly male spaces, and whether it was my life sciences consulting, I do IT
Hmm.
strategy and IT compliance with biotech, med device, diagnostic, and digital health companies. And as a result, it was a lot of guys. And then I
Right.
started angel investing in startups that expanded the power and influence of women. And I told him, by the way, I told him I have a podcast I'm recording.
Honestly, we can't even hear it. We're
Okay,
good.
good, 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 good. Okay, I feel better. Distraction of kids. Um, Angel investing, I was often the only woman in the room, and so that's why the branding was so important around being a helicopter pilot. I would often walk into rooms where it was all guys, and I'd say, "Yeah, I'm an
Hmm.
angel investor focused on this," and they just wouldn't pay attention to me at all. When they
Yep.
found out, and by the way, to be at that table, I had to have a certain amount of money to invest. I had to have certain network. It's like I had the same credentials coming in, other than
Hmm.
I could think circles around most of the guys, because most of us women have to overperform in order to compete in these spaces. And
Right.
then I'd say, hey, yeah, I'm a commercially rated helicopter pilot. And then they would perk up. And it was almost like my table stakes were so much higher in being that way. And why helicopters? When I was 8, my dad had a Cessna 152 take me flying around Hayward, which is in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area.
Hmm.
And one day I got to go up in a helicopter, and I just said, one day I'm going to fly one of these things. And I didn't tell anybody. I looked into it in college, and it was just too expensive.
Hmm.
And then when my husband and I moved from San Francisco down the peninsula, there's a local airport, Port San Carlos, and had a bunch of helicopters. And I just said, every time I went by it, I'm like, one day I'm going to fly one of those. One day I'm going to fly one of those. Well, for my 37th birthday, 38th, no, 38th birthday, my husband decided he'd had enough of hearing me say that. And he gave me a discovery flight, hoping that I would shut up. And, thinking that I would think it was too expensive, it was too hard, it was too
Too
whatever.
much. Yep.
And, at 38, my youngest was 4, my oldest was 7. And it was like, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And it was one of the most I'm so proud of being a helicopter
Mm.
pilot. And then 5 years later, I became a commercially rated because in the San Francisco Bay Area, it's busy. It's busy airspace. I mean, we have San
Yeah.
Francisco Airport, Oakland Airport, and San Jose Airport all
Yep.
within, a small geography.
Hmm.
And I learned this much. And then over
Hmm.
time, my knowledge shrank. And so then I wanted to expand it because as the sole breadwinner, as the one, because my husband stayed home with the kids,
Yep.
I wanted to mitigate risk. I am a calculated risk taker. Some people
Yep.
are like, oh, you take a lot of risk. And I'm no, 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 no. I am a calculated risk taker.
Okay.
And so I got my commercial rating in order to be safer. So as after about 10 years of consulting, I decided I wanted to do more at like 45.
Yes. Yep.
And a fellow helicopter pilot suggested I get into angel investing. And I thought if I go into angel investing, then I could see what's next,
Sure.
could open up some opportunities. And I'm still answering your question on why
No,
piloting.
this is good.
So when I started listening, I went to some meetings, I joined Sandhill Angels, and I absolutely loved it. I got to take my
Mm.
multidisciplinary background. I got to pick, pull things together. I
Hmm.
got to learn so much and then meet these amazing people and invest in what turned out to be mostly women-led businesses. And it
Yep.
was because women-led businesses were solving problems that I wanted to see solved in the world.
Mm.
92% of VCs, the last statistic, venture capitalists
Hmm.
in the US are men, and
Hmm.
47% of them come from the same two schools. So there's a lot of groupthink involved
Yep.
there.
Yep.
And when I was listening to podcasts, I was reading stuff to be a better angel investor. It was like the
Hmm.
total bro show. And I was like, there's got to be something more. I know that
Hmm.
there are a lot of women out there are a lot of people out there who cannot be it unless they see it. So I thought,
Ah,
why don't I launch a podcast called Piloting Your Life to interview people who don't exactly look like or come from the backgrounds that match what
sure.
is typical. And very quickly, I realized that I only wanted to focus on women. I did
Mm,
an investing trip in Europe, and I was in Tallinn, Estonia, meeting with digital health companies. I was in Berlin talking to a group of women founders. I was in Nice talking to an accelerator, and then in Paris. And this was
hmm.
self-funded solo trip that I went on. And at the end of that, I was like, I only want to work. I only want to focus on women.
Hmm.
And so my podcast narrowed, focused on the women. And then it was at that point I realized I was going to through perimenopause. And I was
Yeah.
like, I really only want to focus on women who are over the age of 40. This is what I can relate to
Hmm.
right now. I see
Hmm.
a huge opportunity. If I see an opportunity, I'm going after the gap, right?
Yep.
And so I interviewed 35 diverse women from around the world, and did a ton of research and created what somebody called an inspiring, well-researched beach read
Mm,
on what to expect when you turn 40.
hmm.
So that's how we got to piloting your life. And since then, my podcast is over. I switched over to YouTube. I'm still blogging. I'm
Yeah.
still writing. The while I was going to go, so I wrote the book, worked with a coach,
Hmm.
self-published. It's audiobook, ebook, and paperback, which
Hmm.
I love having all three options. So
Mm.
if you want my book and you love my voice, audiobooks is great. If you don't like
Yeah.
it, it sounds just like me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I published it September 1st, 2019, was starting book tour stuff, and the world closed down.
Right. Of course.
And the unfortunate thing is, this is something that you don't need, and you don't know you need it till you
Need
read
to.
it, because we
Hmm.
don't want to recognize there are a lot of us who are in denial in
Yeah.
our 40s as we're going through the transition. So I was doing house parties where people would come and they would throw a cocktail party or something like that,
Hmm.
and I would ask provocative questions, after a
Hmm.
couple cocktails, in order
Yeah.
for women to open up and start realizing they're not isolated and alone in their experience,
Yeah.
which is so huge because the patriarchy
Yes.
needs us to be quiet, needs us to not talk about it, not
Yeah.
realize the power of community, the power of getting out of our own shame and
Yes.
isolation, especially when it comes to women and aging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so thank you for not only sharing that full story because it brings a lot of questions that come forward for me in that conversation. And the one thing I'm going to land on is from the beginning when you shared, but I didn't tell anybody. I said I was going to be a helicopter pilot, but I never told anybody. Two questions that are coming out of that
Oh, I
particular
get chills for
statement.
that.
So, first question is, do you know why you hid that? And part two, is this something that you continue to do? Is wait because you are very, you're a risk taker, but you're very calculated. You're very specific. So I'm curious to know, is this still you today or do you, okay.
No, 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 no. I mean, I didn't realize until I was going through the menopause transition and that I have ADHD. So it explains a lot, and my son also does as well,
Mhm.
and that's an amazing dynamic. So I am no longer masking the way that I used to mask. I
Okay.
just don't have the energy and bandwidth to do it. And so if I have an idea, I go after it. And then I'm also very vocal about it. I've always been one of those people who asks questions that other people aren't
Yeah.
asking, because I am so focused on my own education. I'm like, I want to know this information. And then I came to find out that other people had the same questions.
Sure.
So whatever mask, whatever filter was on, that's completely gone. So no, now I will share what I'm
Hmm.
doing. It's also a little bit for accountability. So
Okay. Yeah.
that I do that. Now, I have never thought about why I didn't tell anybody. It could be because I was rewarded for success. I was rewarded for perfection. I was rewarded for achieving. And so if I put that out there and
Yep.
made it and vocalized it, not realizing that the universe could actually help me,
Hmm.
I thought that if I didn't do it, I would be perceived as a failure. And so I think subconsciously I was afraid that if I put it out there, that I mean, I had very few like dreams that I would put out there
Yep.
because the thought of failure, the thought of being mediocre was just horrifying
Yeah.
to me.
Yep.
So I think I probably hid it because I was afraid that I would not achieve one of the few things that was probably a dream in my life that I never really allowed myself. Um, because I felt like there were so many people telling me as, a beautiful, smart, talented, energetic, everybody's telling me, stop being so much. You're too
Mm.
much. You're too much. There's one,
Mm.
this is kind of painful. My I used to work for my dad's CPA firm growing up. I was doing tax returns and audits, tax returns and financial statements at 16, audits and reviews at 20. I had more work experience when I graduated from college at 22 than most people do by 30.
Mm.
And I remember I went out to lunch with my mom and somebody else I worked with, and we went to a local place, and I just ordered as normal, whatever. And my mom said, um, I wish we could put a bag over your head sometime so the rest of us could get some attention. I know, I
Scary.
laugh. I laugh about it. I love my mother. I have a very interesting relationship with her. But it was more telling about her than it was about me. But the number of times also, I worked for a biotech company and we partnered with GlaxoSmithKline, and I would be calling stuff out, challenging people. I didn't care where they were in the hierarchy. And I would
Hmm.
have two guys on either side of me constantly kicking me, going, "You can't say that. You can't say that." I'm like, why can't I say that? It's true. Why can't I say that? That's true.
Hmm.
So many times being told you're too much, you need to quiet down, all this stuff. So I think there was probably a lot of that
Hmm.
conditioning in there that I did not want somebody bursting the bubble of one thing that I was holding on to that could be exclusively mine. I'm also an identical twin. My sister is Sherry. I'm Terry. Our names are
Hmm.
Terry Lynn and Sherry Lynn. We are the girls, the twins, the Hansons, Terry and Sherry,
Yeah.
Sherry and Terry. And we both fought so hard for our own identities in the world. And so
Hmm.
I think this was just like a precious little thing. And
Yeah.
I haven't flown in a couple of years because of mitigating risk. There's some extenuating circumstances, but this
Sure.
year I plan to get back up in the air because I love to get above it all, to get above it all.
I love that. I want to thank you for sharing the depth of that conversation with us. I know there will be people in the audience resonating so deeply with what you just shared, and they're putting their hand up, going, I am not alone. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I did. I held that nugget for safety reasons because I didn't want to get crushed. I didn't want to crush all those that were expecting this of me. And isn't it beautiful that now, over the years of experience and opportunities, that you're here showing women we don't need to do that game anymore. And when we don't do that game anymore, everything gets to change. And
But the
we're the
possibility, yeah, the
drivers.
possibilities open up. The world gets a little bit easier. I mean, there's still going to be people who are going to try to crush us and change us and tell us too
Totally.
much. But when we can share it with one another and we can be in
Yeah.
support of one another,
Hmm.
then it makes it easier. I mean, we're seeing it like the women's US, I don't know when this is going to air, but the women's US hockey team and how so much of the world is galvanizing around
Yeah.
supporting in light of what happened in the
Yeah.
locker room. By the way, sorry, Canada, for taking second place. The game was amazing. Uh, but how in speaking up and the
Yeah.
galvanization it's absolutely beautiful to watch because I
Yeah.
think that energy, those voices, and the Flav pulling stuff together to get the party in Vegas, and all of the companies that are stepping up in order to support that in terms of Alaska Airlines and flights. And I think like is it StubHub is like doing tickets, and a bunch of women-owned businesses are donating products to that.
Hmm.
It is drowning out so much of the negativity that we're seeing right now.
Right.
It's beautiful to
Yeah.
watch. It's
Yeah.
beautiful to, even though I'm not there, it's just I still feel like I'm a part of it. The
Yeah.
energy is just so beautiful.
And what timing?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's right? What timing?
Yeah.
And there's a reason, I'm getting chills. There's a reason
Yeah.
for it happening the way it's happening and why it's happening now.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that what we're talking about, what we are doing in the world, what you can do in the world, whatever it is that's coming through for you, what can you put in place for you, by you, because of you, so that you can turn those wheels of possibility. And when you do this, everything, like we've talked about in this show multiple times, and we continue to say, everything in your sphere of influence will change as you change to give back to yourself because there's
Mhm.
nobody more important. And that's not egocentric at all.
No, well, and yeah, so I mentioned to you before we started recording the
Mhm.
book by Elise Lonan called On Our Best Behavior, that is the weaponization of the seven deadly sins in oppressing and suppressing women, and talks about how the patriarchy, we need to comply in order and be the good girls in order to for patriarchy to exist. And the moment that we start saying, no, that doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
and the moment that we start talking to one another, it's almost like in
Yes.
the movie Bug's Life, where the ants realized that there were more of them than of the
Yeah.
grasshoppers, realized, and we claim our power, whether it's voting with our pocketbooks, voting with
Mm-hmm.
our attention. Um, and the attention thing is so important. It's not only outward attention. It's not just social media attention. It's not just deciding what you're going to watch or not. It's also where we spend our
Yeah.
brain cycles. And we were also talking briefly earlier because I listened to your podcast with Alina Wilson.
Wilson.
Oh my gosh, so powerful in terms of I am so tired of expending so many brain cycles on my appearance. I am
Mm-hmm.
so tired of worrying about how I look, about my weight, about other than for health reasons.
Yep.
Um, I am so tired about the amount of time that I spend, and I'm like, am I doing it because I am focused,
Mm.
why am I doing it? And I know
Yes.
it's because how I've been conditioned and how I've been rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of us, as we age, and I have a little bit of a filter on, I have makeup on. I mean, I'm looking pretty good right now, but I didn't wake up in the morning looking like this.
Yep.
And it's just I just hate the amount of time that I spend, and also the flogging as we age, the
Mm.
wrinkles, the skins, the imperfections, the cellulite, the things are not as firm as they used to be. It's I hate that when I look in the mirror, I don't love who I see. And so I ordered Alina's book, Thoughtful Aging, because she
Mm-hmm.
talks about wanting us to love who we see in the
Yeah.
mirror. And I every second that I worry about my appearance is a second that I'm contributing to the patriarchy. It
Yeah.
is a second that is taking away from me, and
You.
it's taking away from being in support of the things that I think are important, being in support of women, being
Mm-hmm.
in support of LGBTQ plus, in
Mm-hmm.
immigration rights, Black people, brown
Yeah.
people, general equality and humanity, our environment.
Right.
It takes away
Yeah.
from me being able to contribute the goodness because I'm focusing on the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
And my therapist gets back from her month-long vacation next week, and this is definitely going to be the topic for next
Yeah.
week.
Yep.
Also finding a way to stop centralizing men in my life, which I
Mhm.
know I do subconsciously, and I catch myself. I'm like, why are you doing that? Stop.
The beautiful thing that you shared there, which I believe wholeheartedly, when we are aware, that's when we can start to take the action. When we
Yeah.
are totally oblivious and don't even see it, we'll never be able to wait a minute, do that step back and go, hold on here. Is this really how I want to live my life? We don't know when our last breath will be. It could
Mhm.
be 10 minutes from now. I don't know when my last breath is going to be, but I will be darned if I don't give back to myself. Because when I don't do that, like you say, I am not being fully present for anyone else, including me. And that's not fair. That's not fair. It's not fair to me, priority. It's not fair to anyone else near me in my sphere of influence. So, Alina was amazing, and I'm so glad that you had an opportunity to not only hear but share the nuggets from the conversation that came through for you. And I am so happy and blessed that that has happened and that you've been sharing it here today. So thank you for
Well,
that.
and I'll be sharing it elsewhere. So, I do book reviews, and I read nonfiction for fiction and nonfiction. But for
Sure.
nonfiction, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll read a book, I go through and highlight it, and then I do my takeaways, and then I push that my takeaways out onto my blog on Medium. I'm going to start pushing more onto my website, terrihansonmead.com. Um, just to share, because not everybody either likes to read or has
Yeah.
time to read. And so
Yeah.
if I can make it
Mhm.
easier for another woman out there by just giving my takeaways, or by somebody will read the takeaways and go, oh, I want to learn more, so then they'll go and buy the book. And I say, go buy the book from an independent bookstore,
Yeah.
preferably women owned.
Women, yeah. Thank you.
Preferably women owned. So I look forward to it. I'm going on a solo trip to Mexico City for a week. My husband does cycling trips around the world.
Hmm.
We have a travel channel called Zeke and Terri Adventures to
Yep.
inspire people over the age of 50 to get out, get uncomfortable, and go adventure. Um, when we get out and go meet people where they're at, experience different cultures, experience different places, get outside of our comfort zones, it makes us better humans, and it makes the planet a
Mm-hmm.
better place. And so he's in Costa Rica right now cycling for 2 weeks. I'm going to do Mexico City for a week by myself. And then I'm doing 11 or 12 days in Nicaragua to visit a friend of mine. It's also where I'm going to be doing my first retreat next year, pilotingyourliferetreats.com, if you want to check it out.
Nice.
Um, but a friend of mine is an American expat. She's lives down there, has been down there for 10 years, and I'm going to get time to read and then write my summaries and then be able to share them out. So I'm
Mm,
bringing Alina's book down. I'm bringing, I think, Financial Feminist down. I'm bringing a couple of books that I will then share my takeaways in hope of inspiring, educating, or making the life easier of
mm,
other women, and also promoting women authors on topics that I think are important.
mm. Beautiful. Terry, thank you not only for the conversation, but for the depth and for the vulnerability today. When you model such, you are opening up so many doors for our listeners, and we can't thank you enough and appreciate you so much for all you've done and continue to do. And I can't wait to have another conversation because I know we will.
I am too. Yeah, I told you you have a friend in the Bay, and I have another friend. I have another Canadian friend. I love it. I love it.
Ta-da!
Yeah,
Is there
thank you.
is there anything you would love for our audience, women who are wanting to and desiring to and moving towards or building momentum in thriving after 45? Any nuggets of wisdom as we wrap up our conversation today?
If you're feeling stuck, I mean, so 40s are different from 50s, and I know that you and Alina talk about, being happiest in your 60s. If you're feeling stuck, please know that you're not alone. please
Mm,
know that the experience that you're having, it doesn't mean that you're not special, but you can be special in other ways and not feeling alone and isolated in your experience. If there's anything you can do to talk to your friends, to get outside of that feeling of shame, do it. Take the step, knowing that a single step, I mean, you don't have to have it all figured out. Just take a step, take another step, because that will give you some momentum. If whether it's getting my book Piloting Your Life,
yeah.
if you're really stuck, there's a great book by two Stanford authors. They're men. We'll give this to them, called Designing Your Life. It's a really great book. Ask for some help, take a class,
Yeah.
just do something to get outside of what you're currently stuck in order to see the possibilities open up. I am a true believer in the path presents itself. And then filters and lenses, just like you could get a red car, all of a sudden you see red cars. You get pregnant, all of a sudden you see everybody who's pregnant.
Yeah.
If you take a step in a direction, and all of a sudden things will open up because your filters will expand, your
Mm,
view will, I mean, you talk about this, your view
mhm.
expands, and the possibilities at a time when we feel like they're shutting down. I really like to see it as we really have unlimited possibilities. For so many people in midlife, for women especially, we see this wide open terrain where there are no longer any sort of set milestones. You're not graduating from high school, college, having
Right.
kids, getting that, career, whatever. And then your kids' milestones kind of end if you have kids. All of a sudden, there's this wide open terrain, which can feel terrifying, but you don't have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
You can just figure out what's next and what's next and what's next, and
Mhm.
not feel the magnitude of the possibilities, but not overwhelmed by them. You
Right.
don't have to boil the ocean.
Yeah. Love that. Don't have to boil the ocean. I love that. Thank you for that
Just your little
analogy.
cup of tea.
Yep. Cup of tea, 2 minutes a day, take some time and just sit and be. How many times do we do that? Right? Yeah, I know. I know. And it's such a hard hurdle. It's really, when you think of it, just have a cup of tea and don't do anything for that 2 minutes of cup of tea, whatever. And people are like, oh, I could do that. And then it's like, ooh, no, that didn't work out so well because I had to go over there and do that laundry, right? And
Yeah,
so it sounds easy and it can be, but you have to give yourself permission to do it. And thank you, Terry, for providing not only that permission,
I'm writing that
but
down, by the way. 2 minutes of space.
yeah, make it small and manageable, right? Rome was not built in a day, like my father always used to say.
Came
Yeah.
down pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Things can get dismantled rather abruptly, as we spoke about, for whatever reason. But that opens up doors of possibility. If you
Yeah.
see it through that lens, it will help shift everything. And you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. Know that. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. We will have all the information in the show notes. So we'll make sure we give your pilotingyourlife.com that's coming out and your book that's there and all the stuff. You'll make sure that I have all of that so it goes in our show notes. And before we close, I do want to share something gently and yet very clearly. In November, this coming November, I am hosting what I believe is so important right now, a live in person experience called Ignite the Inner Uprising. And it will be a 2 day immersive gathering. I'm looking at 1,200 women coming together. I am so jazzed about this concept. Women who are feeling a quiet pull towards something more truthful, embodied, more fully your own. It's an extension of the conversations we get to have virtually in this space. So it's where reflection is going to become embodiment, where insight's going to be integrated, where women who have held so much for others are going to gather and stand fully in their own sovereignty. So if something stirred today in your conversation that we just had, if your body started to lean in and your hands started to raise, that's not accidental. The wait list is open, so if Ignite, it feels like something in your future, We would absolutely love for you to join us. So join that wait list and thank you for being here and sharing, following. Leave us a review so that more women can find these incredible conversations because we are here to thrive after 45 and there will be a place for us to gather. Thank you for being here, Terri. It's been amazing.
It's been fun.